Hello, and welcome to Priceless 2020. I'm Maria Hall Brown. Wasn't that a beautiful song, Build My Life? I'm joined by Dr. Sandra Morgan here at this wonderful event. I should have probably told you ahead of time that beautiful music makes me cry, so I'm going to try to not get emotional right off the bat. This is such a great event. It may be virtual, but we're all here together for something very profound. As a matter of fact, we were enjoying a lot of the photos of how you are all setting up your priceless lunch at home. So thank you for being with us. We're really appreciative of all of your time and your care, and I am so thrilled to be sitting here with Dr. Sandra Morgan, and happy anniversary.
Thank you. It is incredible to be celebrating 10 years as the director of the Global Center for Women in Justice. And Maria, it's kind of catching. I'm going to get emotional too. But it would not be appropriate to not stop and remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg at this moment. Many, many of us have set her up as a model and a mentor in our lives. And I believe that we are going to be seeing a generation of girls exchange their capes for the robes of justice. And I want to thank all of our sponsors who made this possible. And I want to thank President Michael Beals. And you're going to hear a message from them right now.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name.
Hello, I'm Mike Beals, and I'm the president of Vanguard University. For nearly 2 decades, Vanguard University's Global Center for Women in Justice has been dedicated to education and advocacy for the cause of ending human trafficking and the oppression of women and children locally and globally. Vanguard University is home to the Ensure Justice Conference, where dignitaries, law enforcement, educators, government officials, nonprofit advocates, and students meet annually to share best practices and research regarding anti-human trafficking and exploitation topics. As an expression of our mission as a Christian university, our Global Center for Women in Justice is committed to ending exploitation, serving vulnerable and at-risk communities, and providing students opportunities to learn and work with anti-trafficking organizations locally and abroad. The Global Center aims to give the women and men of Vanguard a respected voice in our national and global anti-human trafficking partnerships because they are trained in academic research, best practices, and appreciate the value of the victim-centered, trauma-informed approach to justice and victim advocacy. Thank you for supporting the Global Center for Women in Justice. God bless you.
Thank you, President Beals. And you're right, we can't do it without your support. So if you have the wherewithal, please give generously. The website that you can donate on is gcwj.org/give. And we have such a wonderful lineup of terrific people for you to hear from today, and I know Sandy wants to introduce one of them.
Oh my goodness, one of my heroes in the anti-trafficking movement is Mrs. Cindy Mccain, and she is here now to give you an update on the COVID-19 impact on human trafficking and really express to us how important the educational partners are in combating human trafficking.
Hello, I'm Cindy Mccain, chair of the Mccain Institute for International Leadership. I'm delighted to join you virtually for this year's Priceless event benefiting the Global Center for Women in Justice at Vanguard University. As a fellow humanitarian focusing on combating human trafficking, I'm heartened by your mission to advance the global status of women and children and end human trafficking through research, education, and advocacy. Our missions are aligned, and while we have made tremendous progress, we have so much more to do to end human trafficking. We all benefit by working together on prevention for our most vulnerable. I'm encouraged to learn that your center offers an anti-trafficking certificate, encouraging student leaders to become advocates for victims and continuing the fight against all forms of human trafficking. We must not turn away now, but rather increase our efforts to protect and care for victims of human trafficking. Vulnerable citizens are at an increased risk for exploitation while many of us have been staying at home. COVID-19 has created a perfect storm where our most vulnerable are even more at risk. Children are spending increased time online while away from the mandated reporters in their schools, who just might spot trafficking or abuse. In some cases, victims are trapped at home with an abuser with no way to escape. The global pandemic has increased stressors like job and income loss, isolation, and uncertainty. Since the pandemic began, there has been a spike of online activity aimed at grooming potential victims, with many service providers having to scale back services to promote social distancing. There is less help available for those caught in difficult situations like domestic violence, child abuse, and human trafficking. It is the perfect confluence of events that leave vulnerable youth and adults on the street for sex traffickers to victimize. The pandemic has not reduced the appetite for buyers for sex. We are seeing a surge in online trafficking activity as well as an increased street trafficking. It's up to all of us to stay focused on combating human trafficking of all types and continue to create conditions for victims to get help and buyers and traffickers to be prosecuted. We cannot let COVID-19 distract us from that goal. Thank you very much for having me, and good luck to all of you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mccain. Absolutely right. This particular pandemic has really increased a lot of issues and a lot of problems. But interestingly enough, it's also provided us with some opportunities. Obviously, this day, we've become quite innovative in how we can reach out, which means that we actually have participants in 5 countries and 16 states across the United States, which is very exciting. It also means that we have rallied an incredible group of people to support us today. And I know Dr. Morgan wants to introduce us to one.
One of my favorite leaders in the anti-human trafficking world has taught me more about the role of prosecution, putting the bad guys in prison, and we want to see that happen. So I'm very, very honored to introduce you to our Ambassador at Large for Human Trafficking for the United States, Ambassador John Cotton Richmond.
I'm delighted to be with you today via video. I wish I could be with you in person, but this grand global disruption is forcing us all into new patterns. My name's John Richmond, and I'm the United States Ambassador to monitor and combat trafficking in persons. Years ago, I had the privilege to meet Dr. Sandra Morgan, and she introduced me to the work of the Global Center for Women and Justice. Since then, our professional friendship has been a series of collaborations with a purpose. I've been thankful to participate in several Ensure Justice conferences, the Priceless events, and to strategize with the center's team about a wide variety of issues facing the anti-trafficking movement. And although the formal events and podcast downloads have been a consistent encouragement to me, Sandy's also been generous with her time, always willing to grab coffee or a meal and chat about why there's hope. Last year, Sandy was selected to serve on a presidentially appointed advisory council to give guidance to the United States on its anti-trafficking work, a well-deserved honor. It's hard to believe the impact the Global Center for Women and Justice has made under Sandy's leadership. On Sandy's 10th anniversary, I join many others in expressing gratitude for her faithful service. Thank you for always reminding us to study the issues, be a voice, and make a difference. Congratulations.
Thank you, Ambassador Richmond. And we all agree this is an incredible program led by an incredible leader. And we're delighted that you're with us today. But it takes a village. I know we hear that almost too much, but it does take a village. And so this is a great opportunity for us to hear from our wonderful co-chairs for this virtual experience today, Cheryl Dale and Kim Barnes.
Welcome to Priceless 2020, an event to benefit the Global Center for Women and Justice and their mission in ending human trafficking. My name is Cheryl Dale.
And I'm Kim Barnett. As co-chairs of the Priceless Committee, we are honored to welcome you to Priceless 2020. This year is very unique. Because of the global pandemic and government restrictions, the Priceless Committee cannot host our annual in-person event. We're strong and resilient, and as a result, we're going virtual and bringing you Priceless online.
That's right, Kim. And as you know, Priceless, it's more than just a luncheon. The annual gathering provides a platform for the world's leading experts in human trafficking to share with our own community their invaluable knowledge on how to win the fight against sex and labor trafficking, and most importantly, the exploitation of our children.
And speaking of experts, we are so blessed to have a leader in the movement to end modern-day slavery. Right here with us, our very own Dr. Sandra Morgan. She celebrates her 10 years as the director of the Global Center for Women and Justice. Last year, Dr. Morgan was appointed by President Donald Trump to the White House Public-Private Partnership Advisory Council to end human trafficking.
So as you can see, the Global Center reaches far beyond our Orange County community into the Oval Office and travels across the globe to places like Iraq, Romania, Greece, Turkey, Kenya, Argentina, and the UK.
As you watch Dr. Morgan and Associate Director Derek Marsh share their plan of action to combat sex and labor trafficking, all we ask is that you listen with an open heart and an open mind. We all must come together to protect the community from traffickers and to support the journey of survivors from the darkness and destruction caused by commercial sexual exploitation and a life to freedom and dignity.
Thank you, Kim and Cheryl and the entire Priceless Committee. You have worked tirelessly to put this together today. I am so grateful. I count you my friends and my warriors in combating human trafficking.
10 years, where did it go? You blinked. Sit back, relax. We have an incredibly important interview to share with you right now. Obviously, learning about what is going on with the Global Center for Women and Justice and what some of the plans are and how far they've come. I'm delighted to introduce, you will see her in a second, in a different space, in a different time, Dr. Sandra Morgan and Associate Director for the Global Center of Women and Justice, Derek Marsh.
Hey, Derek. Good to see you here.
See you too, Sam. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. This is absolutely an unprecedented way of starting Priceless, isn't it?
No, virtual Priceless. What a change of pace.
Yes. But what we plan to do today is take a strategic overview of what the Global Center for Women and Justice has been doing and is doing during this unprecedented time of COVID. And I'm actually really excited, Derek, because we get to invite old friends to join us, some who have moved away from Orange County, and we get to meet new friends because we're going to be in a virtual environment, and that's exciting.
Yeah, so it's a silver lining of the cloud, if you will, right? So we don't get to see everyone in person, but they get to see us in person in a way.
There you go.
And well, we still get to send our message out, and we get to keep everyone up to date what we're up to and how we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah. So let's dig into what's going on in anti-human trafficking efforts. And I know you've been digging into the stats, local, national, and global. So give us an overview.
Okay, well, the global stuff really hasn't changed that much, Sandy. It's basically the same as we've been hearing about for the last few years, about 40 million victims of trafficking around the world, maybe 72 million kids who are in hazardous work conditions. By kids, I mean anywhere from 4 to 18, 17 to 18 years of age, who are doing like mining, working with coal, working with their hands in like dangerous, conditions, working in, horrible, like chemical type of plants, or even in like Lake Volta, where they were going to fishing nets and they got to go underwater, untangle those things. They get caught and drown. Just horrific conditions, right? And then we're looking at, how much are they making? About $150 billion a year, according to the International Labor Organization still. So those numbers really haven't changed much in the past few years as far as estimates go. And again, from a global perspective, the world is still looking at more labor trafficking than sex trafficking.
And here in the U.S., though, we have more labor trafficking, but we identify more sex trafficking because it's frankly easier to identify. And we were just in an Orange County task force meeting recently, and our numbers, even under COVID, where we don't have the same access, but our numbers of victims have remained steady with last year. And if we had open access, the numbers would be going up. That's the general consensus.
Yeah, and it's crazy because the only difference is it's not law enforcement providing those victims. It's other groups that are providing the reports on victims and our tips. So.
And that's a good conversation to have because it really points out how important it is to have other people in frontline service provider roles in hospitals, in social services, even in hospitality transportation, to be able to identify and not depend just on law enforcement. And that's where the Global Center for Women and Justice has really shined. In fact, how many frontline service providers do you think we've served in the way of training in the last year since we saw all our friends at Priceless last year?
Well, I'd say that, ensure justice, we got it just before the whole COVID lockdown thing came down. We had about 425 frontline providers and educators and students attend. And that was the last big event we had here at Vanguard.
Yes. And since then, we've done Zoom trainings, and all of the content from Ensure Justice is online. So people are able to still get that first responder training. So what about what's happening in the state of California?
Well, as you know, we've always been about top 3 as far as the reports from the National Trafficking Hotline, as far as the people thinking they're seeing trafficking. And that isn't really an indicator of actual trafficking, but it shows that our outreach and our awareness training is really paying off because people are out there looking and aware about trafficking and willing to pick up a phone and call, which is a huge first step. Because you see something, you say something, right?
Exactly.
And that's what we want people to do. We want them to activate them. We want to have that positive impact.
And I think one of the biggest needs right now is for people to understand the role that going online at schools and in so much of our community for our kids, what the impact for that is and how we can be proactive in addressing that. So I was talking to a friend at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children just last week, and I learned that the cyber tip line reports are 90% higher this year than they were at the same time last year. 90%, Derek.
Yeah, that's not really a surprise, because think about it. Everyone's at home. Everyone has to do school from home. So a lot more kids at home having access to the computer and having to have access to the computer because they have to do their schoolwork. And of course, what are they going to do? They're going to spend more time on the internet. They're bored. They got to get out there and meet with their friends and connect through all the different social media that's out there. And what else are you going to, where are the predators going to be? Using those same social media outlets to try to lure them in and exploit them.
Well, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they're looking for missing kids. So they have the ability to do facial recognition searches on the dark web as well. They have become aware of predators openly discussing the pandemic as an opportunity to entice unsupervised children into producing sexually explicit material. So what are we supposed to do? And I was really proud of our students here at Vanguard University because they immediately started working on pivoting our Live to Free Club that does outreach in the high schools and has done amazing peer-to-peer, youth-led, youth-empowered prevention. They pivoted and produced an online cyber safety peer-to-peer training. And we're going to make that accessible to everybody. But the bottom line is parents need to be proactive. And we can't assume because our kids say they're just doing their homework that someone else from the outside isn't taking advantage of them being online.
And you were talking a little bit about that education and the fact that we are in the local high schools with our Live to Free students doing a peer-to-peer model where they're actually in the high schools with students, talking to them about anti-exploitation, anti-human trafficking, bringing speakers into the classroom and sharing. Of course, it was shut down because of the pandemic, but we're carrying it on, even if it's in a virtual type of environment, and have some leadership with our adjuncts here and really showing some positive progress. But that also reminded me that I owe you congratulations. 10 years, Global Center for Women Justice Director. Wow. 10 years.
Thank you, Derek. That's really kind. Actually, being the director of the Global Center for Women and Justice is the best job in the world. I am constantly working with students and preparing them to go out and be on the front line. We have, over the last 10 years, produced alums who are now federal agents, probation officers, child welfare, educators, nurses, you name it, and they are on the front line leading the anti-human trafficking work. So I love that about my job. I also love being a clearinghouse in our community for trusted, reliable information on human trafficking. I went through, during the pandemic, I get emails and phone calls and texts and social media hits almost daily asking about this or that. That's very sensational. But what they know about the Global Center is that we have been here, we're established, we do the research, we follow our mantra of study the issues, be a voice, and make a difference. And if you haven't studied something, you can fall into some really poor practices that do more harm than good.
We really want to look at something, dive deep, and really find the root of the issue, if there is any root to be found to begin with. And then we're quick about announcing to people how to take that perspective and, take it with a grain of salt, or if it really is an issue, how to get the right perspective on the issue.
Well, and I used to have this attitude of I'm going to be really faithful and careful and do my homework. And I'm not responsible for policing other people and how they might tell the story. And you and I used to make jokes about Taken, the movie that had all this violence and all these things in it that weren't real.
I love it a little bit though, right?
Yeah, I know.
My police part of me kind of loves it, going out there taking care of business.
So, but most of the victims don't have a rock star dad.
Sure.
And there were just so many things wrong. But now as I've been in this longer and longer and longer, I realized that I need to be a voice for those who have no voice. I'm listening to survivors who say, when they tell that sensational story, they misrepresent my story. And now they're looking for something sensational and they don't even see what's right in front of them. So it's super important now that we have media guidelines, that we teach people what is best practice. And that is something that the Global Center really toes the line on.
Right. And, you mentioned guidelines and having something, people can really, like almost like a procedure or policy, people really can hang on and a framework to work from. I know you and I have been working from the framework for a long time. We've known each other over more than 16 years. But I think sometimes we miss sharing that with everybody out there. And I was hoping we'd take this opportunity just to share very quickly, like 5,000-foot view, if you will, like what our theory of change is here at the Global Center for Women's Justice and why we do what we do. So, and the assumptions we have, the challenge we think we're approaching, how we're approaching it and what we're hoping to gain out of it. And I know we talk about the things we do and we're more practical about it as far as like day-to-day things like going to a school and providing peer-to-peer education. But how does that fit into our bigger picture? You think we can do that a little bit with the folks today?
And I love looking at a theory of change because you start with where you see the problem and you end up with impact. We developed REACH, and our model is REACH, REACH, and we're going global. So the R is research. What kind of research do we do?
We do a bunch of research. We actually are responsible for 3 task forces. And thanks to you, we've been involved with looking at how they do what they do. We give them feedback on it so they can do better practices, promising practices, and do better collaborations, work better together to improve how they do prevention, investigations, and how they can work to be better victim advocates for their survivors.
And we empower our students to do research. We participate with other researchers across the nation and internationally. We've worked with the United Nations. We've taken our students on study abroad to Romania, to Greece, to Argentina. And when we can't take our students, we just go ourselves. And so we put the G in global. The E is education. And that is the rock solid foundation at Vanguard University, education. And so everything is framed. We teach classes. We provide training with CEUs. And one of the things that Derek already mentioned, the Ensure Justice Conference, is designed for students and frontline service providers. And as we began to understand that there were professionals already out there with a decade, maybe even 2 decades of experience in the front line, but no understanding of human trafficking, we had the platform to provide the structure to develop an online anti-human trafficking certificate program. So tell us what that is, Derek. You're the chief on that.
Well, I get to be chief of something. That's pretty exciting for me. So I always want to be the boss of something. So it's exciting to be that. And I tell you what, when we first started the program, we started with 4 core courses. We expanded to 5. We had labor trafficking when I first came on a couple of years ago, full time. And now we're up to 13 courses. I'm pretty excited about that because what that means is not only will we have that many more options for people when they're taking the certificate program, which only requires 4 courses for the certificate, but that also allows us to work in concentrations for different majors. And also we're able to look at the option of minors, so we can have a human trafficking minor. And finally, if we were to go further with the pursuit of anti-human trafficking education, we could explore the possibility of having a human trafficking major, both at the undergraduate level and maybe even going into the master's degree level, which you've already done to some degree.
Oh, I'm really excited to announce that we are able to expand the Women in Justice minor to a Women in Justice concentration in the Master's in Leadership Studies here. This is just started, and the first cohort starts in January. I want to talk just for a minute to you about why it's important that this is housed in the Global Center for Women and Justice. We've housed our anti-human trafficking efforts in the Global Center for Women and Justice because women are more vulnerable globally. The UN General Secretary this year stated that more than 70% of victims of human trafficking are women and girls. So the Global Center for Women and Justice already was positioned to address the vulnerabilities of patriarchy and domestic violence and child sexual abuse. These were already issues that are all at various aspects under human trafficking. So the Global Center for Women and Justice just expanded our umbrella and brought all of these things into intersection so we can discuss them as a whole rather than separate segmented topics.
And I get that question a lot too, is like, do you just do human trafficking? Because you talk about the Women and Justice Minor, we talk about gender issues, we talk about a lot of different issues like domestic violence, child abuse, women's sexual abuse, things like that. And I don't know if it's a beauty, but the complexity of human trafficking is such that there's so many criminal elements that fit under the umbrella of human trafficking that really the Global Center for Women and Justice is perfectly placed to address all of those individual elements as well as human trafficking as a whole. So we kind of use the crime of human trafficking as a kind of a linchpin, a cornerstone, but it's a way of explaining and approaching all of these different issues, both collectively and independently, in our education efforts and our advocacy efforts as well.
And we try to model doing that together as part of a community. And one of the funnest things for me is when I meet somebody I haven't seen for a long time and I introduce the Associate Director of the Global Center for Women and Justice, retired Deputy Chief Derek Marsh. And they said, I thought it was the Global Center for Women and Justice. And I said, it is. It is. Men have to be part of this conversation. Men have to speak to other men about demand, about issues that happen behind closed doors. And doing this together, that mutuality, builds strength and widens our platform. So I'm very grateful that Derek Marsh is the Associate Director here. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Okay. So you've all learned the first part of REACH, research, education. The A is advocacy. And advocacy is a huge, advocacy has changed over the years. And my students now are teaching me about advocacy in ways I never imagined. Back when I was a student, we wrote a letter to the senator. No, now they've got entire advocacy plans that they put together all on social media, and change happens. But you can't start doing advocacy if you haven't studied the issues. So we work very carefully with our students to make sure that they have the freedom to express themselves with the guidelines and the structure and the support to do it well and be effective. We, our Live to Free team, we've mentioned already, they are respected across the nation for their work with high school and middle school students. We also do the Ending Human Trafficking podcast. The Ending Human Trafficking podcast now is in 119 countries. 2 years ago, we launched the Spanish language version, and it's in 33 countries now. So the advocacy includes educating people in our communities so they can become part of the solution. Women in leadership, survivor focus groups, advocacy takes all different kinds of shapes in order to hear their voices.
And of course, the C in REACH is collaboration. And I can't tell you enough, and you already know this, obviously, but without collaboration, really things don't happen. And we've seen that over and over again with task forces or other groups that try to get together or don't get together and try to do it independently, and they fall flat on their face. And I can say from experience, first starting on this issue, being, I hate to say, like a newbie, if you will, right? Trying to get this all squared away and thinking, well, we're police and we can do this investigation. We can handle this issue like a regular criminal investigation. And I tell you, we did not do well. And so we quickly realized that we needed collaborators on a number of different levels from a number of different specialties and departments and sectors, really to be successful in our anti-trafficking efforts. And these collaborations we work with include the church communities through Care 68. We have, our collaborations with our education, with Orange County Department of Education, with the California OES, Office of Emergency Systems. We have the U.S. the U.S. Public-Private Partnership, which you happen to be a member of.
Yeah, I'm really excited to represent the Global Center for Women and Justice in Washington, D.C., at the White House, in Congress, in the State Department, because we bring the lessons we've learned here in the local level to a national level, and we create the space to have conversations, to represent survivor voices, and to maintain the work that needs to go on at the national level and the state and the local.
And Sandy, of course, on the REACH, H stands for hope. And the first thing that really comes to my mind is the Survivor Gap Scholarship, where we have survivors of human trafficking who belong to Vanguard University, who we're able to provide some type of financial assistance for to come to college and get their college degree.
And it's life-changing. I talked to a survivor recently who reminded me that by getting a degree, she will change not just her life, but those around her. She started talking to her cousins about when they go to college, and that had never been a conversation around their family table before. So it changes a lot of lives, not just one. I think the other aspect of hope that personally, as a long-time activist on ending human trafficking, is the platform for educating people. Once people know they want to be involved, and distributing best practice training to frontline service providers, educating everyday people, and especially reaching into our schools. That gives me hope for change. And you become part of that, and we want you to work with us on that. So what happens then?
Well, obviously, one of our assumptions is that it's always better not to have a victim of trafficking than to have to treat a victim of trafficking. But obviously, if we have to treat a victim of trafficking, we want to do it the best way we can and make them a survivor who's independent, who has personal dignity and is able to find meaning in their life and hopefully provide meaning for other people as well. Our outcomes are pretty straightforward. We want to empower our students. We want to have them be engaged. We want them to go out there and make things happen. We want to make sure that the partnerships we establish, they sustain themselves, so they don't always need us to shepherd them through. We want to be a resource, but we don't want to be a crutch, right? We want to make sure that when we do prevention activities, they're proactive. We want to anticipate what's going to happen. We want to make sure people can anticipate too. And that's why we spend time in the classroom educating our students about these issues to make it go forward. We want our survivors to be independent, obviously, because that's, number one on our list. We want them to regain that independence, that mindset, that dignity that got kind of trampled on. Have that resilience.
I love the word dignity.
They need it. I mean, I honestly, I don't think they really lose it, but I think it just gets shuffled under all the crud that happens to them along the way, right? And obviously, we're fighting for restorative justice, because not everything ends at the criminal justice level. Just because someone gets put in jail or is held accountable, I mean, we still have other parts of the criminal justice system that need to work. Well, it could be administrative, it could be civil. These things need to work itself through. Maybe finding some of our foreign national victims some type of paperwork or some type of resolution so they can stay in the country or be reunited with their families after what's happened to them. And finally, we talk about a way of maybe taking what people are learning in our academic applications, our certificate program or in school, and be able to apply it as soon as they get out in the world. Because in my world, for law enforcement, if you can't take what you learn and walk out the door and apply it in the field, I feel like the training was kind of a failure. I mean, it's nice to have some intellectual, PhD kind of thoughts thrown in there, and that's all cool. But I really want you to be able to work out there and apply it, whether you're doing an investigation, whether you're helping protecting victims, whether you're prosecuting a case or doing an investigation, whether you're doing prevention activity. If we can't help you better improve what you're doing in your world to help victims, to help your anti-trafficking efforts, then we're not doing our job. That's what we've been working for. And that's an outcome we're really working for. And that's where we're going with this.
So to do that, you would think that we have this huge staff, but we're really pretty small. We leverage the energy and passion of our students. So we have 5 interns that work with us every year, and they stay with us for the entire year. We have a coordinator, and we have the associate director and the director, and that's it. So those partnerships are critical. You're part of being a partner with the Global Center for Women and Justice. And as we move into the coming year, in the uncertainty of a pandemic, we're facing challenges to what Priceless represents. We have a tagline for Priceless. Those of you who've been with me for many years, you remember we talk about freedom and justice and dignity. Freedom and justice and dignity. And you've heard today that trafficking is not slowing down because of the pandemic. And the work is actually more intense, more challenging. We have to learn to pivot and find new ways of doing the same things and maintaining the same outcomes. And frankly, the challenges at universities is astounding and even, I could say, overwhelming, Derek, when I think of the impact on our budget and what we have to raise this year just to stay where we were last year. And that's why we are here pivoting to an online virtual Priceless and asking you to partner with us. Again, we're asking you to partner with us again. And if it's your first time, we want you to know that when you give to the Global Center for Women and Justice, it's not to support a lot of people. It is to be a voice and make a difference right where we are, and as far away as Africa, Southeast Asia, or as close to home as the kids in your family. Grandparents and parents, we want to resource you to protect your children. And Derek, you've got kids at home.
I do. They're getting older, but they're still at home, it turns out. And that's the way of things these days. But also when you're talking about our resourcing for people around the world, really, but we're also talking about our resourcing for frontline providers, because these same people we're resourcing across the globe are really going out and impacting victims and doing investigations around the world as well. We're talking South America, where we just in Misiones, Argentina. I'm mispronouncing that. I apologize to everybody who speaks Spanish, trust me. But, out there talking to law enforcement out there, talking about best practices for them as far as doing investigations and finding, new cases and looking for people, kids who might be missing, and interventions on those levels. We're talking to people in Greece, in Romania, in Italy, everywhere. I was working with folks in East Africa. Rwanda.
I got a call from Kenya Thursday.
See, that's crazy.
And
crazy
somebody,
good, not crazy bad.
Yeah, somebody who is just waking up to this sleeping giant. Said 2 of our girls were trafficked across the border. What do I do? Send me resources. So I have to figure out how to do virtual training all the way in Kenya as soon as possible, because they want to start working on this right now.
And we still have to figure out how to balance the business of the day too.
Right.
Which is always hard to do with 3 full-time staff and 5 part-time staff, and our 5 part-time staff change over every year. So, I mean, it's always a juggling act. And again, that's why we appeal to you to help us kind of mitigate that and help us move forward in our efforts and keep on increasing and making our impact as significant as it has been.
And I'm really grateful to our Priceless supporters. You have been the difference that keeps the Global Center for Women and Justice going. And adding new partners this year is critical to sustain what we have done and to grow into the places and the spaces that need training. They need research, education, advocacy, collaboration. They need hope.
You said it.
You did indeed. I mean, what an amazing program. Comprehensive, clear, coordinated, compelling. But we really want to thank all of you who have reached out, using the word reach on purpose, and help the Global Center for Women and Justice. I mean, we're watching all of the generosity coming in. We really, really hope that you might consider providing a little bit more. All you have to do is log on to gcwj.org/give. Because think about all of the things that are happening right now that you have absolutely no control over. I mean, every day presents all kinds of challenges in what's happening in our world. But this is something that you can tangibly do. This is some action you can tangibly take. This is some control that you can actually have. And what a remarkable thing that is. I mean, I was very moved by what Dr. Morgan said about the young woman that got to go to college and how that's going to affect so many people in her world. That's what I consider paving a road that's going to be walked down, driven down, and used by so many people behind her. And that is the kind of power you have by contributing your support to the Global Center for Women and Justice. And I'm just really privileged to sit here with you today, and I'm delighted that we get to celebrate several people that are part of REACH.
I'm excited because Claire, our coordinator, has been posting on a board. We're already at over $60,000. Thank you for being a generous donor. So Derek and I laid out what we do. Now I want you to hear from people who have been experiencing partnerships, have been part of our education programs. They are the evidence for REACH. So listen to our guests.
I love technology. It's a remarkable thing. We're just going to make a minor adjustment right now. But again, while we're taking this very serendipitous pause, we hope that you will log on to gcwj.org/give and give, because the conversation that I just heard between, we're good? We're not good. The conversation I just heard from everyone that we've heard from already this morning, you know, from the ambassador, from Mrs. Mccain, from you and Derek talking, it is phenomenal what you have been able to accomplish in literally such a short period of time. If you think about the goals that you have reached in just literally a decade, and the lives that you have saved, the lives that you have improved, and all of the potential you have, you must wake up every single morning and feel this is going to shift the dynamic of the planet.
Absolutely. When I wake up in the morning, I often feel empowered to be able to make trajectory changes in other people's lives that I could never do if I was just where I used to be. When I first started fighting human trafficking, I was in Athens, Greece. And when I made the transition back to the States, one of my colleagues said to me, I know you're really disappointed because you're leaving Greece and you had plans to open a shelter for 8 girls. And he said to me, he said, Sandy Morgan, you were going to be a voice for 1 million girls. And I'll tell you what, Maria, it has been more than 1 million. And I'm grateful to Vanguard for the opportunity to be the director of the Global Center for Women and Justice. So listen to some of our friends who have been part of the story of the Global Center for Women and Justice.
Dr. Morgan, I want to say congratulations on serving for 10 years as the director of the Global Center for Women and Justice. And you are personally a hero of mine. You are someone that I look up to. You are a world-renowned expert and someone who is so respected in your field. But one of the things that I love the most about you is over the years, I have watched you sit back and listen and learn and to be hungry to continue to grow in your knowledge and expertise. And I really believe that that's one of the things that makes you such an incredible teacher and such an incredible leader. And so congratulations. I'm excited to see what the next 10 years holds as you continue to invest yourself and dedicate your time and energy into bringing justice to women around the globe. Thank you for all that you do. Love you. Bye.
Dr. Sandy, congratulations on 10 years. You have done an amazing job. One of my favorite memories and something that I'm so still very appreciative of is when someone who wanted to have a positive impact came to your center and asked how they can best engage survivors. And you orchestrated an entire survivor roundtable with note takers. And I believe there was 8 or 10 of us in the room, labor trafficking survivors and sex trafficking survivors. And you had food and an agenda and really created a very safe, welcoming, affirming environment for us to be able to create the type of partnerships that survivor leaders want to have with organizations and with people that want to make a positive impact. Well, yes, me and the whole Ending the Game family love you and appreciate you and congratulate you.
The Ending Human Trafficking podcast has been a joy to be able to produce along with Sandy and the Global Center for Women and Justice, because it puts the word global in the Global Center for Women and Justice in a huge way, because we are able to get the message out of Sandy's work, of the research behind the Global Center for Women and Justice all around the world to hundreds of countries, thousands of listeners. And every single week, Sandy's office receives a message or multiple emails from listeners, from other organizations, from connections that form new partnerships so that we can do the important work on ending human trafficking. It has been a thrill to be able to serve the center in this way. Thank you, Sandy, so much for an incredible 10 years. And thank you all for continuing to support the important work of the Global Center for Women and Justice.
We are Gilbert and Virginia Contreras, Assemblies of God missionaries to Argentina. We want to take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Sandy Morgan for the 10 years of service as the director of the Global Center for Women and Justice. Since 2015, we have had the privilege of hosting 4 Asegurar Justicia conferences, Ensure Justice conferences, but in Spanish, 3 in Argentina and 1 in Ecuador, where Sandy and her team came down and powerfully equipped and educated so many on the issues surrounding human trafficking. Virginia and I are the hosts of the podcast, Terminando con la Trata de Personas, produced by the Global Center for Women and Justice. It's the Spanish version of any human trafficking podcast. We are approaching 3 years since we began broadcasting and have seen it extended beyond Argentina to over 41 countries. Some of our listeners even rebroadcasting the episode by radio. It's so good to be a part of the Global Center for Women and Justice to end human trafficking.
Okay, so how do I start to describe Dr. Sandy Morgan in less than 2 minutes? Cannot do it. But what I will do is describe how important she's been to me, to my juvenile justice system, to the criminal justice system, and to just education and awareness all across the world. But let me talk about myself, because Sandy has made an impact on my life, not just professionally, but personally, a friendship that I cannot begin to describe. So incredibly blessed when she was introduced to me by Judge Doug Hajimonji, when he said, "You have to meet this woman." From that day forward, we have become colleagues and friends that, again, I cannot describe. Sending or setting endless dates of ensure justice, of legislative roundtables. And when it was time for our juvenile justice partners to collaborate and create the first Orange County Juvenile Justice Summit in 2015, who did I turn to? Sandy.
And we wanted to just take a moment to thank Dr. Sandy Morgan for all your work as director of the Global Center for Women and Justice. Thank you for all the work that you do in bringing everyone together from all these different areas of expertise and to have this special space to have a conversation. And also for your wonderful podcast for the same reason that has a global reach. We are just so fortunate to have you in this fight against human trafficking. And by the way,
happy 10th anniversary, Sandy.
Hi, this is Ernie Allen, and I wanted to add my voice and my congratulations to my friend and colleague, Dr. Sandy Morgan, on this 10th anniversary of her remarkable service as director of the Global Center for Women and Justice. It's produced many memorable moments, from the Priceless luncheons to the Ensure Justice conferences and many others. But I particularly admire Sandy's courageous leadership in the Kurdistan region of northern Iraq, her work with faith leaders around the world, including East Africa and in many other places. Sandy, from your beginnings with the Orange County Task Force on Human Trafficking to your most recent appointment as co-chair of the White House Public-Private Partnership on Trafficking, you have touched millions of lives. You've made a difference. So I am proud to call you my friend, to congratulate you on your 10-year tenure, and to hope that there are at least 10 years more.
When Jews finish reading the book of Numbers, we say, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek, which means, be strong, and let us strengthen one another. May the next 10 years be filled with endless blessings and strength, just as you have always strengthened and blessed us each and every day. Mazel tov.
Sandy, congratulations. I'm honored to be able to speak on your behalf and say a couple of words about you, my friend, who I know so well. Keeping it short and sweet, I just think that there are people who know, and then there's people who do. And you are a doer. You've dedicated your life to serving others, to helping others. You're very selfless, and honestly, you've brought a lot of recognition to the university and to the cause that is a very worthwhile cause. And so I just want to congratulate you. I saw a quote that I want to read to you that kind of talks about trafficking and maybe some of the struggles you face. But it says, we're all faced with a series of great opportunities, brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. And the work that you're doing, I know it can seem like an impossible situation, but I really think it's a great opportunity, and you've seized that opportunity and taken it to great heights. So congratulations on your 10 years. We look forward to many more, and thank you for allowing me to help celebrate you.
Dr. Morgan, I just want to say congratulations on 10 years of leadership as the director of the Global Center for Women Justice at Vanguard University. Your fearless leadership and unwavering determination to combat human trafficking, not only on a local level, but a national and a global level, it's inspiring. You have not only impacted students at Vanguard, but faculty, the whole Vanguard community, and the reach of your education and determination is far and wide. And I'm so proud to be your friend. I'm so proud to be an alum. I'm so proud to be an adjunct professor working under you.
Hi everyone, I'm Priscilla. I am an adjunct professor at Vanguard University, and I am also the Salvation Army's International Coordinator for Modern Slavery and Human Trafficking Response. I just wanted to give a huge, massive congratulations to Sandy for your 10 years at the Global Center for Women and Justice. What a huge accomplishment. Thank you for the way that you have impacted not only your local community in Orange County, but also your global community as well. Sandy, you're not only a friend to me, but you are also a mentor. And I just wanted to say thank you for those moments where you invited me to coffee on a monthly basis to check in. I think that's what makes you such a strong leader, is that you focus on relationships and you focus on really investing in the people around you. So again, thank you, and I love you so much.
As I thought about the Global Center, I thought about the 4 key words in that title. Global. More important than ever to have international cooperation on human trafficking and on so many other issues. And it reminded me of one of my favorite Sandy memories, which was the day she brought a group of women leaders from Iraq to the Orange County Department of Education to meet with women in leadership in Orange County. This is a photo memorializing that day, and I'll always remember the impact that it had on everyone involved. Second word, center. It's so important that this center is at Vanguard University, and that Sandy's work has always been centered on the gospel of Jesus. I appreciate that deeply. Women. It's more important than ever to support women who in many places in the world are under attack. And justice, again, more important than ever to advocate for justice, even more now than 10 years ago. And Sandy and the center are leading that work. We appreciate you. We love collaborating with you, and we see 10 great years ahead. So congratulations.
And, over the past decade, the Global Center and the Live to Free Club, we've developed a really special partnership with the Orange County Department of Education, which has enabled us to build some really strong relationships with Orange County schools. This past year, our Live to Free students were able to make a connection through, again, another local nonprofit, Project Kinship, and we were able to go on to the campus of Century High School in Santa Ana to start an anti-trafficking program there. I hired some of the best Vanguard University students, a team of 7, to teach in our peer-to-peer model. And for about 7 weeks, we had an average of 25 high school students coming from Century High every Friday during their lunch to learn about human trafficking from our Vanguard University students. And this Live to Free Leadership Academy was off to a really great start. But sadly, we were there on the Friday afternoon when classes were canceled for the rest of the semester, and now in-person classes even this fall. But we took some time after that and we pivoted. We took our message to where the students were, and that was online, because we've seen a rise in the numbers of young people who are being exploited, groomed, and even trafficked online during this time of COVID. I look forward to working with Vanguard students in the Global Center this year in new ways, and I'm just grateful for the decade that Dr. Morgan has provided leadership so that we can do this great work.
Congratulations to you, Dr. Sandra Morgan, for 10 years of peerless leadership as the director of the Global Center for Women in Justice. You have been an inspiration to me personally and to the organization that I serve, Christians for Biblical Equality. The way in which you model theological leadership with excellence and as biblically true, and for the women that you bring to CBE conferences year after year so that we might enlarge the tribe of those who seek justice for women worldwide. I congratulate you for your 10 years of service and wish you 10, 20 more in Jesus. Bye-bye.
Dr. Sandy Morgan, what an honor to congratulate you on 10 years of very significant work in anti-human trafficking. In fact, you are one of the top people in the entire world that has stayed with this, has not given up, continues to have success, continues to train many people, and continues to see results against this bitter evil that is in our world today. I think of the words of Paul when he says, we overcome evil with good, and that is with God. And that's what you have been doing over the last 10 years. I'm grateful for back in 2009, you came to the Wesleyan Church headquarters, and we trained 145 women at that place, women and men at that place, on anti-human trafficking, what to do in their communities. Literally, from that day, it has been exponential. That's happened all across the United States and around the world. Why? Because you were willing to come out. You were willing to say, sure, I'll help. That's been your very essence of who you are, is available spirit. Yes, I'll help. I know this is awful, this is terrible, this is evil, but we will overcome it.
Good morning, this is Nevula Antoine and I represent the Humanitarian Initiative in Bridges, an NGO in Athens, Greece, that works among an extremely vulnerable population, which is the refugees in Greece. At the past, we had the opportunity to co-work with Vanguard University and organize two different conferences in Greece, as they also came here along with two teams of young people being led by Dr. Sandra Morgan. In both of these two conferences, along with many other changes that they brought, I want to underline how the importance of bringing together stakeholders and representatives from many different backgrounds and many different voices, but also showing that there is the opportunity, all these different voices, to be together and be united in order for one voice to be heard and give voice to the voiceless, which is so, so important. We just want to thank you and encourage you to keep up the good work.
Hi everyone, this is Ioana Bauer in Bucharest, Romania, and I'm the president of Elibrary. I think I met Dr. Morgan in 2013 or 2014, and back then I just couldn't reconcile in my head the tension, seeing her just so full of grace and full of wisdom, and at the same time such a force, right? Because if you know Dr. Morgan, you know that she is a force for good. Since then, our collaboration has flourished so much, and not only am I the proud beneficiary of a scholarship for the Human Trafficking Certificate that Dr. Morgan is leading, but I'm also proud to call Dr. Morgan my mentor and my friend. One thing that she has greatly benefited us as an organization and the anti-trafficking movement in Romania is actually helping us compile a trauma-informed care curriculum that is actually fit for our context, adapted to the type of workers that we're dealing with. And I am pleased to say that since 2016, when we launched it, we were able to train 891 social workers, law enforcement, NGO personnel, and just other first responders who were interested in finding out more about this. So Dr. Morgan, thank you so much for your impact. Know that you are valued and loved all the way to Romania. Congratulations on your anniversary, and I look forward to seeing you again in person.
I am Ren Hamoudi, Professor and Director of the International Relations Office at University of the Hock Kurdistan region of Iraq. I got to know Dr. Sandy Morgan during her visit to our city in 2009. She is one of the pioneer Americans who came to Iraq to raise awareness regarding the human trafficking. From the very first time, I was taken by her skills in conveying information in very easy, simple, and effective way. Her enthusiasm was very well seen. We worked together for many years. The experience we gained from Dr. Sandy Morgan guided us to pursue the cause of women empowerment in our transforming society. Dr. Sandy Morgan is a true leader. She is patient, energetic, never quit, and full of hope. I always see her as a woman of vision and mission. I wish her continued success. I am sure she has so much more to give.
Such an incredible array of people that have been impacted by the Global Center for Women and Justice, and obviously Dr. Sandra Morgan and her leadership. But now you can see that in front of us, we have some pretty spectacular bling. And this bling is here for a very specific reason, because the grace and the kindness and the gifts of some incredible people are represented on this table.
We always do the Diamond Awards at the end of Priceless, and we recognize leaders who are making a difference in combating human trafficking. But on my 10th anniversary, I wanted to look back and give two very unique awards. The first to Darylyn Malilly for outstanding faithfulness. She took my hand when I was just starting out to direct a nonprofit center, and she said, I'm going to help you. And Priceless was born. You're going to hear from her in a moment. And Dr. Carol Taylor, former president here at Vanguard University, during a season where we weren't sure of the future, she kept the center going. And I want to recognize her outstanding vision. But we're always focused on the future, so we continue to lead with young leaders recognition. And we're going to introduce you to Kaylee and Jasmine, both former Live to Free presidents who are going out there now to change the world.
Sandy, you and I joined Vanguard about the same time, and what a journey we shared beginning in 2007, when we wondered if the center would survive another year, let alone 10 or more. The center is here today with its global presence because of your leadership, your passion, your perseverance, your expertise and competence, and your ability to convene and inspire diverse groups around a call to end human trafficking, and to be a voice and advocate for those who have had no voice and are often invisible, hidden before us in our own communities. I've been with you and observed how you engage and inspire every group, from students and clergy to senators and congressmen and women, law enforcement, legal and judicial leaders, national and international leaders at every level in both the marketplace and faith communities. You, my dear, are the master convener. Whether through roundtables, summits, podcasts, forums, lectures, or across the table one-on-one. And you don't just convene diverse groups, you inspire action. And you do that at a local, national, and global level. You're everywhere, across the US, Iraq, Argentina, the United Kingdom, Istanbul, Greece, Hungary, Ecuador, Romania, Italy, Russia, Zambia, Ukraine, Thailand, and India. I think the only continent left for you is Antarctica and maybe Australia, but you've probably been there already as well. There's no one that I've had the privilege of working with who has more passion and energy. Sandy, you are the Global Center for Women and Justice. Today, I watch from afar and cherish those times when we are able to connect in person. More than anyone, you, Dr. Sandra Morgan, embody what the ancient prophet Micah announced, what God said was good and required of us, to act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. Congratulations on your 10th anniversary. Here's to the next 10 and beyond.
I've stayed with it because it's growing in influence. It's not plateauing. It's not moving back. It is going forward across the world and now connected because Dr. Morgan is now connected in Washington, D.C. with a very large and vibrant army of people that are working against human trafficking. It's quite amazing how far this little entity has come. And I'm very proud to be a part of a group of people that go outside themselves, outside their own families, outside their own interests, and have time and energy and resources to give to those that are kind of on the ragged edges of the world. So it's very satisfying. I'm very appreciative of the women that I get to work with here. The chairs, the committee members, the staff, they're all so supportive, and they have such a good attitude. And so we're dealing with a difficult subject, but there's lots of hope, and there's even joy in the doing of this job.
Hi guys, I'm Kaylee Lawrence, a logistics coordinator and soon-to-be collaborative case manager with CityNet here in Orange County. During my time as an undergraduate student, I was super blessed to have been introduced to Dr. Morgan, which began my anti-trafficking journey and involvement with the GCWJ. The GCWJ provided me with real hands-on opportunities to serve my community. Through the influence of Dr. Morgan, I took eye-opening women in justice courses, had amazing internship opportunities, and went on some awesome traveling adventures, all of which prepared me for my future in social justice and anti-trafficking.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine French. I currently work at Second Harvest Food Bank serving as the Marketing and Development Coordinator. I also have the opportunity to serve on the board of Fair Trade Los Angeles as a social media and communications lead. During my time at Vanguard, Dr. Morgan was both my professor and my mentor. She served as my mentor when I was in the Live to Free Club, and especially in my senior year when I served as president. She was my professor while I was a women's studies minor, and I thoroughly enjoyed taking many of her classes, but one in particular was when we did our study abroad in Greece, where we studied the issue of the refugee crisis as it relates to anti-trafficking, especially in Greece. The Global Center provided me with so many opportunities for growth in leadership and has equipped me both while I was in my undergrad and now in postgrad to serve our community well.
Congratulations to our wonderful Diamond Award winners. And again, thank you for being with us today. And a great shout out to our mighty crew who put this together. Sarah, her beautiful videos. Andrew, who's doing all the tech. Maggie, our social gal. And of course, Claire, our coordinator. And wouldn't have worked at all without Derek, who's been keeping us on time. So we really want to thank, but most important, we want to thank Dr. Sandra Morgan on this, her 10th anniversary. She started this whole event with a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I'd like to finish it with one. Fight for what you believe in, but in a way that lead others to join you. So, Sandy, on your 10th anniversary, you talk about dignity, and I think white roses represent dignity and purity. So congratulations.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Flower. Oh, okay. So I'm supposed to be on a script. This wasn't in the script. Thank you, everyone, for celebrating. I've been looking on my phone, and I have friends in Iraq and Greece and Ireland and so many places, students to celebrate with us. And all of our partners that keep the Global Center for Women and Justice going, thank you for being here today. Thank you for being here yesterday. And please come back tomorrow because we've got a lot of work to do.
Thank you all.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside